I have a lot of material I want to cover, so I'm going to go quickly, but as Michael said, the recording will be available to the library, and I will also post my slides on SlideShare. But the essence of what I want to get to, my main points are really pretty simple and straightforward. It's that enterprise architecture is really about knowing your organization. It includes everything from strategy to operating manuals. Thus, many of the current things you're already doing, like strategic planning, systems analysis, and design, are really EA-related activities. But they're usually done independently of each other. In other words, in a disconnected manner. In other words, the models don't talk to each other. If I change a model here, it doesn't tell. You know, if I change the data model, it may not tell the rules model that an important change has just happened. And so there's a lot of need to manually do things. And secondly, we typically use models and methods that combine things very early in design, which makes them very hard to separate, to change later. The result of this is that we get stovepipes, we get disintegration, we get entropy, we have the world we live in today, high total cost of IT ownership, and IT that's difficult and expensive to change. Despite the fact that we actually do a pretty good job aligning it with the pieces we're working on, but at the same time disintegrating the whole. So today's talk is how to build on what you're already doing to create what I call an information age organization that is agile, that is integrated, that is aligned, and where people are continually learning to see and manage the whole together. So let's get started. Or, as I like to call this sometimes, bridging the chasm between strategy and execution, between those ideas and actually accomplishing things. In other words, getting people on the same page. Look, if you can't see it, you can't manage it. It's that simple. You can't build a building by piling a lot of materials up and saying, get to work, guys. And it's especially important to be able to see something if it's big and complicated or it'll grow and change, which is what organizations do. Typically, we have not engineered and architected organizations. We have let them grow organically. And, that was okay when we didn't have the ability to see the whole. But today, thanks to information technology, we can see the whole. We have tools that are evolving and becoming more and more capable. So in the information age, we can really get on the same page. Socrates said, the unexamined life was not worth living. Well, if Socrates was a consultant today, perhaps his company motto would be that the organization, too, should know itself. The unexamined organization is not worth working in or perhaps investing in. So the question becomes, what's an organization? This is really a metaphysical question, and which is really what Socrates was about when he said the unexamined life is not worth living. And enterprise architecture is really about asking the question, what do I need to know about an organization in order to know it? What does it mean to be an organization? How do I know it? That's what enterprise architecture is, knowing the enterprise. And knowing it in a way that we can communicate it. In other words, architecture, and enterprise architecture in particular, is the holistic set of descriptions about the enterprise. Thus, everything from strategy to operating manuals and user manuals and everything in between, all those things we normally think of as related to IT, like data models and rules models and just all those things, network models, all of those things that are the knowledge about the enterprise that, for the most part today, we keep in a disjointed manner. But that's not to say those models in and of themselves are not very good, and often they are. The trouble with models is they're not reality. But models are really all we have. And although every model is imperfect, many of them are very useful. And let's face it, language itself is even a model. Consider this. I live in Dallas, Texas. We don't get snow very often. In fact, if we get, an eighth of an inch of ice here in Dallas, we basically shut down the city because we have no equipment, we have no ability to deal with it. The school's closed, the post office is closed. Everything will close on the smallest amount of snow or ice. We have a couple of words for snow. We have snow, maybe sleet, and ice. That's it. Living in the same planet are the Inuits who live in the Arctic. They have 100 words for snow. Their model of snow is much richer than ours. They deal with it at a much finer level of granularity. They're not on a different planet than we are. They just have a different model of that planet because it helps them survive in their environment. Well, similarly, we have good models in our organizations. Now, obviously, they help us. We do communicate. We do build systems. We do all kinds of remarkable things. We make awesome products and great services. But at the same time, we could be doing a whole lot better, the data is pretty compelling, and I think each of you listening here today probably realize, too, that we could be getting a lot more bang for our IT dollars and really for out of all of our assets within an enterprise. And that's really what enterprise architecture is about. In other words, it's about helping people communicate about their ideas of things, strategy, goals, objectives, whatever those things are, so they can align, integrate, whatever the words are, whatever the objectives are, the things that we manage. It's how to connect the ideas to the execution. In other words, bridging the chasm between strategy and execution. This is political. This is about people. Mitch Kapor was a fellow who invented the spreadsheet. Well, he didn't invent the very first spreadsheet, but he commercialized it with Lotus 123 and later sold that to IBM. But the idea that architecture is politics, it's about people. It's about people getting on the same page. Peter Senge talks about learning organizations. Peter took over Jay Forrester's System Dynamics Center at MIT and focused more on the human aspects of that, although, Forrester and the models of system dynamics always were about the people as well as the other parts, components of an enterprise. But the idea that a learning organization has certain characteristics, that it's about people having system thinking, getting their arms around the big picture, doing it together, sharing their models and language so they can communicate, so that they can really continually learn to see the whole together. Well, enterprise architecture is really about certainly those first four things, and I think if you're mastering those first four, you're actually, becoming, much more capable as an individual. Oops, Kappelman hit the wrong button there, but not for long. This is really what I call the information age organization. These are some of the characteristics of it. This idea of a learning organization where people do have a shared language so they can get their heads around what they're trying to accomplish so that then they can execute in harmony. But do we really need a shared language? Well, I would suggest to you that all this talk for the last 30 plus years about alignment and our continual quest for it is an indication that in fact we do. Why is it so hard to get aligned and then even harder to stay aligned? And it doesn't really seem to matter how long you've been in IT, what year it is, what industry you're in. How do we align really ideas and execution, strategy and execution?